Today's headline is Pretty Squaw at Auction. It says, Singing Swan, the belle of the Kiowa Indian village in Indian Territory, has auctioned herself to pay a debt of honor of her dead father. Old Jim Crow, a famous wealthy white Indian, was a successful bidder. He paid $25,000 for the handsome young woman. Then he took her to his home and introduced her to his family of grown-up sons and daughters as an orphan whom he had adopted, and told them to treat her as a sister. In the meantime, the debt of honor has been canceled in an unexpected way. Singing Swan's father was Chief Iron Talk, a man of wealth and influence in the tribe. He had his daughter well educated. Her fine qualities and her beauty attracted many white suitors, but she held aloof from them and stuck to her father. He, by reason of his constant wish to improve his people and to do the greatest possible good with his fortune, was induced by unscrupulous whites to embark on an enterprise that swept away every dollar and left him at his death $6,000 in debt. This amount he had borrowed from a moneylender, and while for years he had paid the interest, he had never been able to pay the principal. On Iron Talk's death, the moneylender seized property belonging to the estate. This, however, did not satisfy the creditor, and feeling her father's debt to be one of honor, Singing Swan finally decided to give herself an expiation, reserving, however, the right to reject the final bid. As soon as old Jim Crow had given Singing Swan a check for $25,000, he hunted up the moneylender and asked for the note held against Iron Talk. Old Jim read it carefully, and then taking his revolver from his shirt, he thrust the paper into the muzzle of the gun and drove it down on the ball with a lead pencil. Now, he remarked, I happen to know that you got more than enough of Iron Talk's property to pay this debt. You've annoyed the heirs of my dead friend long enough, and if I ever hear that you mention this matter again, I will send this note into your hide with a bullet. Singing Swan chose for auction a feast day, when a large crowd composed of white traders, cattlemen, Indians, half-breeds, nomads, and gamblers had gathered in the village street. When she appeared among them, clad gaily in the rich royal robes of her tribe, all eyes were turned upon her in admiration. Suddenly, mounting a box, she stood a dramatic figure amid most picturesque surroundings. Who wants a wife? She asked of the astonished crowd. There was an earnestness in her voice and face that forbade a jesting reply. The young warriors could hardly credit their eyes and ears. Her black eyes sparkled, and her long dark hair, falling below her belt, mingled with the brilliant colors of her apparel. Strands of freshwater pearls and hundreds of elk teeth, burnished and tipped with gold, flashed from her neck and arms and every seam of her costly garments. Finally, a young Kiowa brave spurred his pony near. Few heard the words of the bidder, but the next instant the girl exclaimed, $1,000 I'm offered. Who bids more? Six Killer, a rich Cherokee, instantly shouted, I will give $5,000 in gold for Singing Swan. It's not enough to pay my father's debt of honor, said the maiden. At that moment, old Jim Crow spoke up. I need a housekeeper, he said, and if Singing Swan will take kindly to old Jim, I'll give $10,000. You can't get her, roared the Cherokee. $11,000. Can't I, retorted Jim, throwing his Winchester across his left arm and drawing a long piece of glittering steel from his belt. We'll see about that. Shout 15,000, Miss Singing Swan, and tell him to come again. The two men glared at each other, to the great delight of the crowd, and no doubt to the intense satisfaction of the Indian girl. They continued bidding until Jim shouted 25,000. As the angry Cherokee turned his horse and galloped away, the crowd cheered. This story came from the great state of Georgia, being reported in the Cherokee Advance of June 12, 1903. Thank you for joining us today. If you want to continue to uncover all of America's lost and forgotten history, then remember before you leave to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and remember to like and comment below. And we will see you next time on Americana Archives.